Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought it would be fun to do an updated video showing you every page I have ever coloured in my colouring books. Now I have been colouring for 4 years this coming October, and for 2 of those years I was concentrating on the completion of Kirby's Worlds Within Worlds, which if you've been following for a while you'll know that I managed to do that earlier this year with a lot of you guys along for the ride as well. So having said that, my other books did get a bit neglected and some only have 1 or 2 pages coloured in them. So this should all fit into one video. This video won't be my entire book collection though, because I do have some books that I've yet to touch, and that's mostly due to lack of time than anything else, as they are all books I want to colour in eventually. If you'd like to see a video of all my untouched books, let me know. I don't know whether that would be interesting for you guys or not. There's actually not that many that I haven't touched, I don't think. I'll have to go and count them. I'm going to guess maybe 20-ish. That actually sounds like a lot, especially since I don't have a huge collection of books. Quality over quantity and all that. Let me know down below how many books you have that you haven't coloured in, but that you really want to. There's just not enough hours in the day. Now, I didn't think I had any whips, but my daughter was tagging my coloured pages for me to do this video today, and she found 2. So they are officially on my hit list and I need to go back and complete them. I struggle with leaving things incomplete, so they're on my to-do list. Now, I'm not necessarily going to do this in any order, but I think we're going to start with Johanna Basford, as most of my earlier work starting from end of 2018 is in her books. Plus they're the first books on my shelf, so that's a start. So starting with Lost Ocean. Now this is actually going to show you my more recent work, but my colouring journey started with this book. So right back in the beginning, I was searching for mindfulness techniques to combat anxiety, and honestly I had tried everything, and I mean everything. Everything. One day I came across an article which was an interview with Johanna Basford. It was about how the adult colouring craze has been effective with mental health and stuff like that. So the next morning I raced down to my local Big W store and picked up the only book of hers they had in stock, which was Lost Ocean. And then I picked up a pack of Stella Triplus fine liners. I think I completed 3 or 4 copies of this book, front to back with the fine liners, just mindlessly colouring while watching TV at night. As I can't just sit still, just block colouring, no blending or anything like that. I do have some examples of this in another book, which I'll show you as we go along. But after I complete the books, I'd throw them out and start a new one. So I don't have any of my older completed Lost Oceans. This is a newer one. And it is still one of my favourite Joanna books, with all the fiddly little details that you know I love. Now, the first one, and none of these were colour alongs, but this is our first one here. Now this one I coloured with Prismacolor pencils and white Cyano gel pen, and I just love the bright bold colours for this book. So everything is just beautiful. Just think bright corals, ocean, and I love colouring water. I love colouring ocean, so I think that's one of the reasons why this is my favourite book, or one of my favourite books of Joanna's. Now this one here is a long-term whip that I had. I think I originally started it back in 2019 or 2020, and I had a bit of the background started. I think I had the first dark blue in there, and a couple of the different corals, and then it just became too much and I just put it aside and thought, this is a forever whip, I'm probably never going to finish it. But flipping through earlier this year when I wasn't feeling too well and needed something to colour, I decided to finish it off. And I like how I contrasted it with the pastel colours as well. So we've got the bright bold background, and the blue for the ocean I did in a circular pattern to make to draw your attention into the centre, sort of like a little bubble effect. And then I did the pastel colours for the centerpiece, and there's some silver metallic paint pen there as well, if you can see that. And that's all I coloured in my new Lost Ocean. But like I said, it's one of my favourite Joanna books, so I really need to colour some more in this one. Next we have Ivy and the Inky Butterfly, and I've coloured a few in this. This is mostly older work as well. Okay, so my teapot page, this one was coloured with Prismacolors, Distress ink and gold Clero paint. So I've used Distress ink on the background. You can see the gold Clero paint, but I've also got like a silvery paint on the toadstool as well. And all the pencil work is Prismacolor. The next page is the Griffins. This is Prismacolor pencils. The background is Neocolor too. I've got a little bit of metallic paint on there, metallic gold paint, and some white cyano gel pen for some details. This is one of my earlier attempts at a Neocolor 2 background. Okay, our Feast page. Now this one is only Prismacolor pencils for the entire thing. This one I coloured back in 2019, September 2019. So I was almost a year into my colouring journey at that point. And this one was reshared by Johanna Basford. So when I look at it now, it probably isn't the best with blending and stuff, but it holds a place in my heart because Joanna reshared this one. You can see I haven't completely burnished as I was colouring, and the background isn't blended out too well, but I still like it. And I like the colour choices as well. I do actually like the colours of the background and how it brings in the depth of field. So we've got the darker greens going to the light. So the focal point is the table. Okay, now this one is the most recent page. So you might have seen this one on my Instagram. This one was a forever whip. So I started this, put it away, never to look at it again. And all I'd coloured was the tree trunk, these purple leaves, and these darker, brighter pink leaves here. Actually, the treehouse was coloured as well, but I didn't like the colours. So when I went back and revisited this page, I covered it with some gesso and coloured over the top with some Prismacolor pencils. So this page is all Prismacolor pencils with Distress ink for the background. And around the light sources here, I've used just a yellow pastel colour just to give off a bit of light. And I've also got a bit of metallic paint here too. So we've got a few little bits of purple accents. We've got some copper, some silver, and there's some copper coming down on the lanterns as well and down on the boat. I really like how this page turned out. I'm glad I came back and revisited it and completed it. Okay, Doorway to the Wonder Room. This one is Prismacolor pencils. There is a little bit of Posca, white Posca here for the accents. I think this is one of the first pages I coloured in this Ivy and the Inky Butterfly, but it's also one of my favourites. So I love the colour scheme I chose here. I coloured this one first, and then I coloured the Feast page next, I think. So I was trying to sort of match the colour scheme to keep it very similar throughout the book as well. But I really like the colours I chose on this page. I like the Posca effect on the little leaves here too. It sort of gives them a bit of a rounded effect. And the Wonder Room. The Wonder Room that takes weeks to complete. I really like this one. I was really happy with the results. I love the background. If I coloured it again, I might use a little less of the pink, but otherwise I really like this page. It did take a while to colour, and I coloured different elements at a time. So I do like the photo frame of the elements one day, and then I'd come back and do the flamingos another day, and just do little pieces at a time till it was complete. And our bakery pages here. I love the colour choices, the pink and the blue. I think they go really well together. I like the effect I was going for with the background. It isn't blended out as nicely as I probably do it now, but it is one of my earlier pieces, so I'm still really happy with how it turned out, and it's all Prismacolors, and I do like the colour combinations I used here too. And that is my current Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. That's all I've done in that one. Now, I did say I had some of my earlier work to show you, and it is Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. So this is from mid to late 2018. Back at the start of my journey, after my Lost Oceans, I got Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. And again, with my Triplus fine liners. Now, there wasn't a big color. I think you can get 60. I think there's a pack of 60 now. But at the time, it was like a pack of, I think, 36. And then you had like a nature pack, a pastel pack. I suppose it probably added up to 60. It didn't feel like that many colors at the time. But this one is colored all with Staedtler Triplus fine liners. So this is my earliest work that I have. As you can see, it's just block coloring. It's just putting color to paper. Mindfulness. Not even thinking about color choices, just picking up a color and using it. I've got some metallic pens in here too. I really need to buy some more metallic pens. I think I did my last Lost Ocean was entirely metallic pens. I missed a page. My very first attempt at the Wonder Room. Yeah, so this is where it all began, guys. Got the silver metallic pens. I'll flip a bit quicker because this book isn't that interesting. But I just wanted to show you guys where it all began. Before I started using pencils. Actually, I should colour a page in this book with fine liners now and blend it out and see if I can colour better with fine liners. Now I know more about blending. I quite like that bee actually. He still looks really cute. Oh, I like those metallic pens. I need to get myself some more metallic pens. Oh, the bee's metallic too. Flip a bit quicker because this isn't that interesting. Is that it? No, more. Maybe that's it. No. Okay. Well, we definitely improved on this page as well. But notice I still did pink and purple leaves. I really like that metallic colour. I don't even know what pens they were. Now, I think that's got to be it. Yeah. All right, next is World of Flowers. Now, World of Flowers was released in October of 2018. Now, about the time that this was due to be released, I'd seen some online work people had created using pencils. So after seeing that, I decided that I wanted to give that a go. And my husband bought me for Christmas that year World of Flowers and the 150 set of Prismacolor. So I dove straight in there. And this book will show you my very first work using pencils. So we have our first whip, which is the pull out from the back. Now I have coloured the main elements of this page. And I do remember what colours I used as well. I think I'll have to go back and complete it now. I just need to think of a colour scheme to go forward with. But I quite like the start. This little test here, I had done a video for someone. I had coloured a page using polychromos and created a bokeh effect background. And somebody had asked me how I created it without using a million layers like you do sometimes with polychromos. So I just did a quick little video for them on how I coloured that without using any layers. That was before I had my channel. Okay, so this purple page, the little fairy houses. Now this book, I didn't know about fixative, so there is a bit of colour transfer and fading on some of the pages. I've coloured quite a lot of this book actually. I think I could probably finish it if I really wanted to. I do have a second copy, which I'll show you shortly as well. Now my white Posca has bled through, and I've got this attempt at a bokeh background that you can see. Now, I have told you many times I can't colour, or I can't draw a symmetrical circle freehand, and you can see that with my bokeh background here. Yeah. My skull page, I actually really love this page still. I created this one on February 2019. February? Yeah, I think it was February 2019. And I want to make it look pretty because I know a lot of people don't like colouring skulls or even looking at skulls. So I thought I'd try and make it look pretty. I think I succeeded. And I've got this beautiful spring colour palette. I drew in the butterflies. Now, I'm not quite sure. I can't really remember if I drew all the butterflies in or if there was some already on the page. I'll have to have a look and see if I can find the original picture, or if someone has it and hasn't coloured it, let me know. Did any of these exist? I think some did, but I don't know. I don't know if I've added them all myself. They look like they're meant to be there, so I don't know. I have added this quote in, and I've done a bokeh background here, which actually was quite effective. So I really like the colour scheme. I've whited out the petals on the flowers, and also on the leaves as well. So I've coloured the flower first and then just whited the edges out just to soften it up a little bit. Next is my butterfly, and I love this page as well. So the effect I was going for was I wanted the butterfly to stand out in the foreground and the flowers to be as part of the background. So I've achieved this with the black Posca to make it stand out. I've also used neons on the wings as well and some gold Clero paint. And with the background, I've whited out the flowers and the leaves to make it sort of fade into the background a bit more. And I've got another bokeh background effect here too. And I quite like the colours I chose as well. I especially like these little peachy colours. So good colour choices, Karen. Okay, we've got the fairy house here. Now, when I coloured the fairy house, I've clearly just gone, okay, that's where it ends, not thinking that this might be grass or anything down here as well. Actually, looking at this fairy house here, it reminds me of the house page we coloured in Worlds of Wonder, which is up as a tutorial. It's a similar colour scheme, so I like here with the background how I've created this sort of like fairy lights effect following the plants. And then all these little dots around the outside of it. I really like that effect. And I've got the light sources here. An early attempt at light source. Now our tree, that was not actually a tree. So it was just these flowers, and I thought it's just sort of sitting there and I didn't know what to do with them. So I drew in this tree trunk to make it a tree. It is a very orange looking tree trunk. And for someone who always attests that she can't draw, I think I did a really good job at drawing in a tree trunk. And we've got the grass at the bottom, and then I've done this sort of sunrise background. And as you can see, it goes from light to dark. And if you look at the background of the flowers, I've done something similar as well. So closest to the sun is quite light, like a chartreuse. And then the further it gets away, we've gone dark green to black. Oh, can you get in there? Yeah. Okay, this one here is Prismacolor. So everything in this book is Prismacolors because they're the only pencils I owned at the time. I've done a black Posca background and I've whited out the petals on the flowers and a couple of the yellow leaves as well. I really like the colour combinations I've used on this page. Okay, we've got a simple and sweet palette here, just lots of different pink tones, no background. I think it's nice just on its own. I like the colour choices there too. This one is another one of my favourites. I've got a lot of favourites in this book, don't I? I like the background is quite dark but bright at the same time. Nice grassy background here, and I like that we've used all green. And then the black Posca here has sort of given it a wrought iron effect, but black. And then it looks like you've got the grass, your wrought iron like window, and you're looking through to the floral theme in the middle. And I've used the purples and the blues and brought them into the background as well to keep it cohesive. And the sky background here sort of goes from a purplish blue down to an orange. So the colours all go really well together, and it is a limited palette. So I think it works well. And I do that a lot, actually, the purples and the blues together. Clearly a favourite. Okay, what's next? Oh, the bird. Okay, now when I originally coloured this one, I think I did the background all first, and then I went to colour the bird. And I can't remember the colours I originally used, but I remember erasing them and having to go over with a darker colour. So I think if I was to do this page again, I would colour the bird in blues instead of adding that much more colour into the page. But I think what I was trying to do is make him stand out. And I think what I should have done is make him blend in, and it would have been a nicer looking colour scheme. I like the background though. And these branches, I don't know if I've added these branches in or if they were always there. Surely they were always there. I have whited out some of the lines though. It's hard trying to remember something that you did 4 years ago. This one was a Chris Cheng tutorial, and I coloured this one because I want to learn how she did these little flowers here. I think they look really cute. And I learned a lot from following her tutorial. I love Chris Cheng. She's so talented. Okay, now this little potion page, these rocks in the background, I drew them all in by hand because I want to look like a castle wall, and I wanted this to look like a window. So I closed it in with this little twig here, which wasn't originally there. And I wanted it to look like the potion bottles were sitting on the windowsill. So the background I originally did under the black Posca, it was, I was attempting a sunset, which was purple, pink, orange, yellow, very multicolored. Didn't work. It was way too busy. So if in doubt, black it out. And we went over the top with black Posca instead. And we've got some white Posca highlights on the page too. I quite like the colour of these flowers. Now the heart one here, this one I coloured for Valentine's Day, February 2019. And I quite like the use of colour here. So I've got purples, pinks, blues mostly, lots of different tones, but that's okay. I like where I was going with it. I've got a soft purple pencil background as well. So I think I did pretty good with the colour choices on there as well. I'd only been colouring for a couple of months at that time. My busy little science pages here. Now, I think I threw every neon colour that Prismacolors have on this page, and I actually quite like the effect that they have in the bottles that make it look so much more magical with the neons. I quite like these colours here. I think they look great. Now, the page is super busy, and it's partially my fault because all this negative space in the background, and I don't like negative space. I feel the need to always add something into it. And it's been a while because I'm usually colouring quite detailed pages. So it's been a while since I've had to add in my own elements. But back then, and we're talking early 2019, I added in this sort of wallpaper background and these tiles down the bottom as well. If I was to do this again, I would probably have more of a muted background, quite light colours so it doesn't stand out and overpower the page so much. And the same with the tiles. I'll probably do that quite light as well. I haven't used my neon colours in a while, I don't think though. overall, I still do like the page, but gosh, there's so much going on in here. And I like detailed pages, but there's a lot going on. Early attempts at colouring glass here. I've just put a few like white Posca lines on the front of the glass. This one here is another favourite. I've got a lot of favourites in this book, but I really like the colour scheme I used here. When I posted this one up on Instagram, I got a few requests for the colour palettes, which I put, and they're still up there on my Instagram. And there was a group of people that used it for a colour along. I think there was about 3 or 4 of them that did a colour along together and used my palette, and the pictures just look beautiful. I still like this one, and I like my use of white Posca here too. It gives the fish a bit of a 3D effect. These two here, this is my very first attempt at brickwork, and you can still see the pencil outlines on here with my bricks. Now, of course I do that differently now, but I quite like the effect that, you know, it was my first time learning. Same as the sky background too. That was my very first attempt at a sky background, and I think I did pretty well for a first attempt on trying to make this look like a window. I've whited out the lines on the pictures too, to make them look a little bit like drawings, like hanging up your kids' pictures sort of thing. And I like the apple. The apple looks nice and juicy. Now, this page here, you've probably seen quite a few times. It is the first page I ever coloured with Prismacolor pencils, with any pencils actually. First page I've ever coloured. I've added in the background myself. I used a stencil, Tim Holtz Ranger stencil for the birch trees. And I've added in all the greenery, all the trees and the bushes in the background. You can see I've added them in like trees, and then you've got sort of like a bush line here, and the darkness is the bottom of the bushes, and then we've got the green of the grass. And I've also added in this sign as well. Now the ute, I based the colours on an old rusty old ute my husband had in one of our chicken sheds in the old farm. The flowers, I have whited them out here. I'm not quite sure why I did that. I don't know if I was trying to make them blend into the background, but I think, well, I have done this page again, and I will show you that in a minute because I have recreated it. Actually, I'll show you now. And I haven't whited them out because I want them to stand out. So this is my other World of Flowers book. Now, I bought this one specifically to recolor this page. So this is my very first ever colored page. And October last year, I decided to recreate it, so 3 years on, to see just for myself how far my colouring had advanced and my techniques. So this is last year's page, and that was 2019's page. And I used the same stencil, the birch tree stencil, for the background. I like my colour choices. This is one of my favourite pages and will always hold a special place in my heart because it was my first colouring page. So I'm always going to love this one, but I still like the colour choices, especially this sort of autumn palette I used for the flowers. I think I did a really good job with the road on this one as well. But I love both. I do love both. This one I probably coloured better, but this one holds a special place in my heart. So, I mean, and that's all I've coloured in this World of Flowers, my second copy. Okay, this page here, lots of colours going on here, and another bokeh effect background. So I've done that quite a lot in this book actually. And I can see I've coloured it around all the little white dots that Joanna's put in here, a bit like fairy lights again. I do like the effect I've got down here of, I'll hold it a bit closer, the little colour I've put coming down from the plants, from the flowers, a bit like lights. So I quite like that effect. One of my earlier pages in this book too. All right, my little beetle here. Now, I originally coloured him I think I used the fluoros. I can't even remember now. I remember colouring him and not liking it. So I erased it as much as I could, but it wasn't erasing that well. So I had to colour it with darker colours, hence why I've used the darker blues. But I do quite like this background. And I've used silver, I think it was just like a silver cyano pen, that one, for the background. And it's pastels. It was pastels I used for the background around the bug. So I'd probably colour the bug and the background around the bug a bit differently now, but I do like the background on the entire page. And one day maybe I'll colour this page in opposite colours. Or maybe I'll do it like pinks or something. Maybe. One day. Now these two here, I was going for opposite effects. So we've got the reds and the blues on this page, and then we've got the reds and the blues on this page, but I've used a different blue tone there. I mean, it looks good on that page, but it doesn't really match. These butterflies, I tried to do like a little colour trail behind the butterflies. It actually just makes it look smudged. But if you can see there, I've coloured with a bit of pencil, some pink outside the butterflies. I've done it on this page, and then I must have come to this page and went, yeah, no, I'm not doing that again. It just looks smudged and dirty. Yeah, I like the effect. The circular background sort of draws the effect into the centre of the page. We've got some white Posca details. My gardening pages. Used a lot of neons on this page too. I still quite like it. We've got the black Posca for the background. Very bright and colourful. Okay, this one here, I've added in a sunrise, a sky, some hills, some mountains, some trees, these mushroom houses. They're all additional add-ons. I really like how I coloured the lily on this page as well. I think it looks really pretty. Yeah, nice and bright and bold colours. Okay, the intro pages. I still really like these ones too. I like the colour scheme I used here. Yeah, I think they look really pretty. Very bold again, very bold and bright, as I like to do. And the nameplate, the books belong to page. I really like the colours I use for this one as well. Blending it leaves a bit to be desired, but I think if I colour this page again, I would use exactly the same colours. I would just blend the background out a bit more, make it maybe a bokeh effect as well. But I definitely use the same colours. I think it looks really pretty. And this one here is another favourite. Lots of favourites, like I said. I love the autumn scheme. The oranges and the purples together are really pretty. And the greens and the purples for the lettering. Yeah, I love this page. I think it turned out really nice. And that is my Johanna Basford World of Flowers. Next we have Enchanted Forest. And again, this is my earlier work. Okay, this one isn't so much. This double page here, now there is a blog post up on my website about how I fixed this page. So this was a forever whip. And I had the background coloured, and I attempted a bit of the green down here, and I think that was it. I think that's all I'd coloured, but it looked really busy and I didn't like it, and I put it away never to be seen again. And then when I was sick this year, at the beginning of the year, I was pulling out my whips to do some work on them while I wasn't able to film. I decided to fix it. So what I did was cover it up with so it was all Prismacolor pencils, the bits that I had done. And if you look at my blog post, you can see what it previously looked like. I'll see if I can pull up some images for you guys. But I covered it with gesso, and then I went in with Neocolor 2s to fix the background. And although it is very busy pages, I love busy pages. And I think the overall effect looks really good. I'm very proud of this page. And we've got gold paint for the borders. Otherwise all Prismacolors. This one here was a mix of Prismas and Polys. So the background here and the background here are Prismacolors. Everything else on the page is polychromos. Another one of my earlier works. I quite like the effect I was going for here. Bit of a stormy sky. And these sort of really light tones. As you can see, I wasn't burnishing back then. I was going for a quite light effect, and I'm very heavy-handed, so for me to get a light effect, I was not burnishing to try and make it look nice and light. I can now get that effect with burnishing, but back then that was the only way I could do it because I am naturally heavy-handed. Now this one here, I think is one of my very favourite ever Johanna Basford pages that I've coloured. It is all polychromos except for the background, which is Prismacolors. So this is an early bokeh attempt, and you can see I've used a circle stencil this time, but you can see the lead pencil outline on my circles. But yeah, again, trying light-handed, not putting too hard a pressure, haven't really burnished the page, and I love the colour scheme, and this is all polychromos. Is that it? Oh, thought I'd done more in that book. But that was Enchanted Forest. Next we have Magical Jungle, and you've probably seen a few of these pages. So I've got this one here. Again, this is back in my trying for a light hand stage. This is Prismacolor pencils. So there is some polychromos on this page, and that's the yellow flowers here and these tiny little leaves. They're polychromos. Prismacolor bokeh effect background. This time, instead of using lead pencil, I've used one of the pink colors from the background to create the circles. I really like this page, and I really like the colors too. And where is it? This one here, another early page. Similar effect with the non-burnishing. I've added in these mountains, this waterfall. You can see here this line, that's where the water originally ended, and I've added all this water in, the grass and the mountains. Now, if I was to colour this page again, the only thing I would change is the watercolour and make it a lighter tone so it matched the rest of the page. But other than that, I quite like this page. I love these sort of pale colours. And now this one you might have all seen very recently. At the end of our Spotlight series on leaves, we did a tutorial on how to colour leaves. And I used a lot of the colour combos from the original Chameleon page. So these colour combos, just recreated with my normal heavy-handedness and burnishing the page. And you can see the differences. So it still is fairly light, but at the same time it's bright, if that makes sense. So this is all Prismacolor pencils, and we've got a Distress Ink cloud background, and there should be now a video up on the channel showing you how to do the Distress Ink backgrounds too. Okay, that was Magical Jungle. Next we have Joanna's Christmas. Now we have the Snow Globe page here, which I coloured this back in 2019, and it was one of my early attempts at snow. And you can see here my background's smudged a little bit. Early attempt at a galaxy background as well. The colours down here probably don't go too well. I should have probably used these pinky blues. But overall, I think it turned out well. I learned a lot from colouring that page too. Okay, now we have our owl with his ugly festive sweater. This one is a colour along up on the channel. And I quite like the colour combinations here with the greens and the pinks. We've got some silver, I think it was a cyano gel pen that I used on that one. and Distress Ink Cloud background. So he's up on the channel as a tutorial. Okay, and the polar bear. This is one of my favourite pages that I've coloured in Joanna's books, but definitely my favourite from this book. This was a mix of Prismas and Polys. The pinks are Polys. I think the rest is Prismas. Yeah, the pinks are Polys and I think the rest is Prismas. Early attempt at fur, and I really like how it turned out actually. I quite like how I coloured him. And some white Posca as well for the background. So I've drawn in these little stars, or snowflakes I should say. Okay, oh, there's another one. Oh, okay, the gingerbread house. This is coloured with polychromos and there's quite a bit of metallic paints on there as well. Originally when I was colouring this, I was filming it. I started filming it and then I thought it was a bit boring, so I decided not to finish filming it for a tutorial and just finished it off on my own instead. Yeah, so that was polychromos and metallic paints. This little floral wreath is all Prismacolor pencils. I love the red against the green, and we've got some silver paint pen in the centre of the flowers. And then we've got our front cover page here, our title page. This is Prismas, and I think I used some polys for the dark green leaves. And then there's green pastel from the background too. And that's Joanna's Christmas. Next we have How to Draw Inky Wonderlands. And I've only got one coloured in here. And this one is all polychromos. And I've got a bit of stickles on the bees and around the light there. And we've got gold Calero paint in the stars and on the flowers. You can see that shine. Black Posca for the border. And that's all I've coloured in this book. Now, this is How to Draw Inky Wonderland. So I did draw some of these things in myself, but I can't tell you what was here to start with and what I've drawn in. I can't tell the difference. Next we have Miniature Secret Garden. I don't know where my full-size Secret Garden's gone. Maybe I need to buy a new one. I don't know what happened to my full-size one, but I've got my miniature here and I've coloured one page. Now this page here is a little goldfish. This was coloured with Prismacolor pencils and there's a bit of white Posca details there in the background. Now, when I originally coloured this page, I did film it. I filmed the entire thing for a colour along. And then I edited it, I uploaded it, and then I decided that it wasn't good enough to be a colour along and I deleted it. So I was clearly in a bad mood that day because I quite like the end result. So I don't know what was going on with me that day, but I decided to just delete it all and it's never been seen, but I do actually quite like it. So yeah, I must have been in a bad mood that day. Next we have 30 Days of Creativity. Now I haven't hardly touched this. I've only done the title page here, which was in Prismacolors and the Distress Ink Cloud background. I'm not a huge fan of the books where you have to draw in your own details, which is like Secret Garden, those original colouring books where it's partly drawn in and then add your own details. Anamorphia by Kirby Rosanes was a bit like that too. I do like How to Draw Inky Wonderlands though, because it teaches you how to draw things without you having to just make up your own. And then I've got 30 Days of Creativity, which I haven't really touched. I should have a look through it, but there's just not enough hours in the day to, you know, go back and do some of these things. Yeah, so I've only coloured that first page in 30 Days of Creativity. Now our last Johanna Basford book is Worlds of Wonder. So this is her most recent colouring book. Rooms of Wonder is coming out next month. And if you aren't already aware, we are going to be colouring that as a full book colour along on the channel. And I am aiming to colour it from front cover to back cover. Now, I don't know how well I'm going to stick to that because I have seen some sneak peeks and the pages that I've seen look awesome. So it is going to be hard to, you know, do it in order instead of just skipping to the ones that I really like. But I mean, rules were meant to be broken, right? So we'll see. We'll see if I stick to it or not. Okay, so Worlds of Wonder. Most of these are tutorials too, I think. Yeah. So this one is Prismacolors and we've used gouache on the water, and this is up on the channel as a colour along. I love the bright colours of this page. It reminds me of Lost Ocean. This one here, I followed a Chris Chang tutorial because I wanted to see how she created this brick look. I think it looked awesome and I kept seeing it every time I get online on social media. I would see someone colouring this page and I thought, I've got to give that a go myself. And I just love Chris Chang. Beautiful, talented lady. This one is also up on the channel as a colour along. I think it's 3 parts perhaps. I like the contrast from the brown border to the bright coloured picture in the centre. So love the bright colours. I love the water. I just love colouring water actually. Took forever and I barely had any blue pencils left, but yeah, I like the effect. Just colouring backgrounds with pencils leaves you with not much pencil at the end. And this one here, the Toadstool House, is up on the channel as a colour along, and this is all Polychromos pencils. And I've used pastels for the background, and this is my very first attempt at a cloud background. And I created my own cloud stencil and just used the pastels over it. So, okay, this is the house I was mentioning earlier when we were going through Worlds of Flowers. So this is up as a colour along as well on the channel, and it's all Prismacolor pencils. We've got black Posca for the background. And this one's also a colour along. This one has many parts to it because all the floating islands were coloured using a different set of pencils. So off the top of my head, we use Luminance, Castle Arts, Arteses, Polychromos, and Brute Fina Squares, I think. I can't remember. It is up there on the channel though as a colour along, and this is my very first attempt at using distress inks on my background with my cloud stencil as well. The cloud stencil is linked in my Amazon store down below, and if anyone is looking for these tutorials, if you look in my playlists, I have them sorted by book artist as well as by pencil brand too. So if you're looking for Johanna Basford, you'll see all the Johanna Basford tutorials, but if you look for, say, Brute Fina Square, you'll see all the Brute Fina Square tutorials, or Polychromos, Luminance, whatever brand you're looking for. Okay. Next we have the Romantic Country series by Airy, and this is book 1. And I haven't done any colour alongs in these books. Let me know if you want any colour alongs in these books. I love every colour I've every page I've coloured in the Airy books. This one was a mix of Polychromos and Prismacolors. I can see I used Polychromos for the trees. And the pinks as well. I think that red, the whole letterbox is Polychromos, I think. A attempt at snow as well. This one is from Christmas 2019, so about a year into my colouring journey. And I quite like it. I added all these little pine needles in here for the wreath, to fill up the wreath for the a fuller effect. Yeah. That's the only page I've coloured in that book. Romantic Country, the second tale. Now again, only one page coloured in this book. They're very neglected. And this is Manon's Flowers. So this one is the very first page I ever coloured in an Airy book. And this was coloured with polychromos and prismas as well. We've also got Inktense for the sky and the ground. Now, it was my first attempt using Inktense. I just sort of grabbed the pencils and a water brush and just gave it a go. So I didn't know what I was doing or how it worked or anything like that. It was just purely a test. I hadn't seen any videos or anything, was just giving it a go. I've used way too much water and not enough colour. But yeah, it's all a learning curve. I still quite like how the page turned out. And that's it in the second tale. Now the third tale, this has my favourite Airy page that I've ever coloured. And it is Santa's mailbox here. This was coloured all with polychromos pencils, and I still love this page today. This one was coloured in November of 2019. I still love this page. I've used white Posca for the snow effect. Yeah. Definitely one of my favourite pages. I love this red as well. And that was all polychromos. And that is Romantic Country, the third tale. Alright guys, next up is our Beauty of Horror books. If you don't like scary books, skip forward a minute while we just go through these ones. There's not that many to go through actually. So this is the original Beauty of Horror, and I've only got one page coloured. This back page here. So we've got Distress ink for the background, Prismacolor pencils. I've got gold metallic pen for the fence. We've got Wink Stella on the bones and the skull, and we have glossy accents on the eyes. So if I hold it up, I'm not quite sure if the screen is capturing all that glitter, all that shine. So that's all I've coloured in the original Beauty of Horror book. Now I am missing book 2 and book 3. This is a book 4. And I've got one page coloured here, and this is Stranger Things. I'm not sure if this is up on the channel. I don't know if I coloured this as a colour along. I think I did. This one is from September 2020, and I'm pretty sure it should be up there as a colour along, as a tutorial. And this was coloured with Prismacolor pencils. We've got Posca for the string of lights in the background, black Posca. That's all in Beauty of Horror 4. Now we've got Beauty of Horror 5, Haunt of Fame. Now this one is a tutorial, and it's the lovely Steve Irwin. And I coloured Steve with polychromos pencils, and he is up on the channel as a tutorial. And we've got the background, I think, is pastels, but that'll be up on the tutorial. That's it for Beauty of Horror 5, and one more Beauty of Horror book. This is Beauty of Horror Tricks and Treats, and I've got 2 pages here. So the first one is The Witch Flying Over the City. This is one of my earliest pages. I'm not sure when I coloured this. I'd say it'd be about 2019 maybe. Maybe for Halloween 2019. All Prismacolor pencils. And then we have the nameplate page here. Now, this is my very first attempt using Neocolor 2s, and I remember at the time thinking it was a massive fail. I think I even posted about it in the Facebook group saying what a fail it was, but now that I look back and I actually really like the effect, and I think if I tried to recreate that effect, I probably couldn't do it. couldn't do it if I tried. But I think it turned out really well, and I think it suits the page too. And it's the colour scheme matches with the Prismacolors too. So I actually quite like that. So that is the beauty of horror, tricks and treats, and there's no tutorials on any of those pages. Next, we're going to start with the Rita Berman books. Now, this one is My Walk Through Spring, and I've got one page coloured here. And this one is coloured with Prismacolor pencils. I've got distress ink for the background and just a gold paint pen for the middle of the flowers. A limited palette, but I think it's quite effective. And this one is My Walk Through Summer. And I've got one page coloured here. This is nice, bright, bold, spring type colours actually, all in Prismacolor. No background. I don't think it needs a background, it just speaks for itself. Next we have My Walk Through Autumn, and this one was gifted to me, this book, and I've coloured one page here. This one I coloured while I was not feeling well and couldn't film as well. So this is just a rainbow colour palette. I wasn't sure if these were supposed to be petals or raindrops, and I decided to go with raindrops but colour them with a rainbow palette. It is Prismacolors, and the background is pastels. So that is My Walk Through Autumn. Now I don't have My Walk Through Winter. I am missing that one. I'm missing the Seasons compilation book as well, and I'm also missing The World Under the Magnifying Glass, the water one, but I've got the land one, which I'll show you now. So this is The World Under the Magnifying Glass, the land. And I've just got one done in this one. This one was a test page with my luminance pencils, and the background, I think I used a mix of pastels and distress ink for the background, and we've got white Posca for the details. And I've got my journey through Europe, so I'm still waiting for my journey through Asia to arrive. I'm hoping it'll be in the letterbox today. But this one we've got some colour alongs. So this page here is up on the channel as a colour along with Prismacolor pencils, and I've got white gel pen for some added details. I really like this little cabin page for autumn colours. We have this one here. I thought I did more in this book. This one here is also a colour along. This is Prismacolors, beautiful and bright and cheery for a nice sunny Paris day. All Prismacolor pencils, and you can find the tutorial up on the channel as well. Is that really it? I thought there was another one. I might be imagining things. No, that's really it. So that is my journey through Europe. Next we have Hannah Karlzon books, and we've got Summer Nights first. This is the first book I purchased from Hannah Karlzon, and the first picture I ever coloured out of her books. Now, her books seem to be very neglected. Only 1 or 2 pages coloured in each of her books. So this is the first page I ever coloured. I love the frog. I love the colours I used for him. There's a lot of colours happening on this page. It's very colourful. We've got the fire here and then the ice. I do like the way I coloured those crystals actually. And we've got some gold Calero paint on all our toadstools there. And on his little crown. So that was my very first ever Hannah Karlzon page. I really do like that frog. Got Summer Nights. Next we have Daydreams, and I've got a few coloured in this book. So the first one is a little frog page here, and this one was coloured with polychromos. I think I've used, I don't know if the background was polychromos as well, or if I used Prismacolors. Everything else is polys. I can't remember about the waterfall background. Now, this waterfall effect, I actually followed a tutorial from Katrine from Always Colouring. Now, Katrine, her tutorial was based on a tutorial from Peter Hewitt. So the original effect is a Peter Hewitt effect, which Katrine did a tutorial on, and then I followed her tutorial. So yeah, originally from Peter Hewitt. This one here, we have, again, a mix of Prismas and polys. So we've got polys for all the pink, Prismacolors for the rest of the pencil work, and the background is pastels. Now this page here, this little bird princess, she was the first human I ever coloured. So my very first attempt at skin, and as you can see, she looks a little bit muddy. She looks like she's been spending a lot of time playing in the dirt with the birds. But other than that, I quite like the page. Everything is polychromos except for her dress, which I think is Prismacolors, I think. And I like the effect, the lace effect that I've got on her dresses as well. And that is Daydreams by Hannah Karlzon. Next we have Spirit Animals. Now this was my favourite book of Hannah Karlzon's at one point. And this one here is one of my most recent pictures. I think, I'm not sure if I coloured that this year or last year. But this is all Castle Art pencils. I love the vibrancy I got with the Castle Art pencils as well. And then Distress ink for the background, and we've got some white Cyano gel pen as well, with the little white dots just on the flowers though. This is a tutorial up on the channel as well, and this one you'll also see on Castle Art's Instagram page too. I quite like how that turned out. And next we have this double page. This is the first page I coloured in this book. I was going for autumn colours, and it is all Prismacolor pencils. We've got black Posca for the background here, and then we've got this metallic orange Posca around the flame. And I just have this title page here, and that is Prismacolors, I think. And that is it in Spirit Animals. Next we've got Seasons, and this is my other whip as well, which I'll have to come back to. I haven't got much coloured on it. I've only got the strawberries coloured here. I have to remember what colours I used. Hopefully I wrote them down somewhere. But lots to go, so I'll have to come back and finish it. Maybe I'll be showing you that one next every page I coloured video. And this is the Books Belongs To page, so a limited palette. I love this colour. It's actually my favourite colour in the entire world, this sort of purpley pink colour. And it is Prismacolors, and we've got gold Calero paint as well. The background is pastels. I keep going to say Distress ink instead of pastels, getting them confused in my head. So that was Seasons by Hannah Karlzon. Next I've got Magical Dawn, and only one page completed in here as well. This pretty flower page, so a limited palette, very muted tones. I quite like these muted pinks and purples together, and the background is a pink pastel background. That's all I've done in Magical Dawn. Next we have Jewelry Box, and we've got this page here. Again, I've used purple and blues together, a bit of a theme. Quite like those colours together. And this is all Prismacolors, and then white Posca for the cobweb, for the spider's web. I really like that page. But that's all I've managed to do in Jewelry Box as well. So they are very neglected, and I really do need to colour more pages in my Hannah Karlzon books. We've now got her newer books, which are also very neglected. And first up we have Midnight Masquerade. This was her first from her Tales From series and the new publisher. And I've only got one coloured in this one, which is this vase page. Now, this is not a colour along. I love this page so much. I love the muted tones, and then the vase is just so beautiful and bright. I really do like this page. We've got a little bit of white Posca on the berries and stuff. But that is my only page in Tales from the Midnight Masquerade. Next we have Tales from the Forest Kingdom, and again I've only got one page. This one is a colour along. It's a tutorial up on the channel. It was coloured with Prismacolors and Neo Colour 2s for the marble effect on the background, and I really enjoy how this page turned out. I quite like it. So that one's a colour along up on the channel. And my only page coloured in Tales from the Forest Kingdom. Next we've got Tales from the Witch's Cottage, one page again. This one is also a colour along. Oh, if I can open it. Struggling there. Okay, so this is coloured with Prismacolor pencils. We've got white Posca in the sky and black Posca for the border. And yeah, that's a colour along up on the channel if you just look at the Hannah Karlzon playlist or the Prismacolor playlist. Now the clouds, I used Distress ink and then I went over it with some pencils as well. And that's the only one in Tales from the Witch's Cottage. And the last Hannah Karlzon book is Tales from the City Among the Stars. This is her most recent book, and we recently coloured a page up on the channel in this book as well. I love this double page. My most recent attempt at a sky background, and I think it turned out beautifully. We added in all these little cobblestones, which I think turned out really nicely as well. We do have some silver metallic pen for the stars. You can see that. And a little bit of white Posca around the windows and stuff. And on the little flowers. So this is a colour along up on the channel. And that is Hannah Karlzon's Tales from the City Among the Stars. Next I've got my Clara books. And this is Fairy Celebrations by Clara Markova. I haven't coloured too much in her books, but I love every page that I have coloured. I thought I was missing her first two, but I'm actually missing her first 3 books. So I will get them eventually, and her newest release, which is coming out any day now. But they're really expensive. So each book I think costs, with the shipping price, around about $100 Australian to get here. So I will collect them all over time, but it will take some time. So this is my little house on frog's legs here. And this one was coloured all with Prismacolors, and I've used a white gel pen for some details. I don't have any colour alongs in any of... Oh, I do have a colour along in a Clara book. None from this book, but from her most recent book I do. This is one of my favourites. Little Red Riding Hood, I call her, and I love the red of her jacket against the dark blue sky. I love the house as well, and the little footpath. I think this one turned out beautifully, and it's all Prismacolors. And we've got one of our front pages here. This house, I was mimicking the colour scheme from the very front cover, and this one I coloured with polychromos. So, and I matched those colours to this page as well. Now the background, the sky background is Prismacolors for the clouds, and I quite like the effect, even though this is an older page. This was a few years old, I think. And we've got gold Clearo paint as an accent colour, and I've used it on every little flower and around the doors and bows and stuff. So I really like that page. And that is Fairy Celebrations by Clara Markova. Next we have Fairy Touch of Magic by Clara, and this is the one that's a colour along up on the page, up on the channel, sorry. So this page was coloured with polychromos, and we've got Distress ink in the background, and we have some different paints here. We've got gold metallic and silver metallic paints. I like the colour scheme here. It's very spring, the flowers blooming, and yeah, so that's a colour along up on the channel under Clara Markova, and it's also under Polychromos too on the playlist. Next I've got her I Believe in Fairies postcards. Now I've only completed one of these postcards. And it's this one here. So this little Christmas fairy here, she's coloured with Prismacolor pencils. The background is Distress ink and her wings are just a silver metallic paint. And I've got white Posca on the details of her outfit. I quite like how she turned out too. Next I've got my Maria Trolle books. Now I don't have all of her books in my collection. She's an artist that I've only quite recently, in the last 6 to 12 months, gotten into, and she's becoming one of my favourites actually. And I've got, what have I got? Luna, Nightfall, Twilight Garden, and I've got Botanicum, which was recently gifted to me as well. So I have one page coloured here in Luna, and that's this little rabbit here. It's coloured with Prismacolor pencils, and I've used Neocolor 2 for the background, and the Distress ink spray stain on the background here as well. So this was a bit of a tester page, which didn't work out so well. The spray stain, the nozzle kept blocking, and I had to contact Ranger to figure out how to unblock it. And when I was just attempting it, I put a bit of a plate around the image so this wouldn't get covered in the spray stain, and you can see the circle around there. I've also got some gold metallic paint on the page as well. And that is it from Luna. So next I have Nightfall, and this one is a colour along up on the channel. And this one is coloured with Prismacolor pencils. The background is Distress ink, and I've used the spray stain on this one. And we've got some metallic paint on the bee. So the spray stain worked so much better this time. The last one was my tester, and this time it worked really well. And this one is up on the channel as a colour along. I quite like how that one turned out. I really like the butterflies as well. Now we've got Twilight Garden here, and I've got one page coloured, and that's this one here, muted pinks and purple tones. I was trying to match the coloured pages that Maria's already put into the book, and I think it turned out really well, so well that I kept flipping through it. I know I've done a page in this book, where is it? I couldn't find it, it just blended in, so it took me a while to find it, but yes, this is my coloured page, and it is coloured with Prismacolors. And that is the Twilight Garden Artist Edition, and this one was gifted to me as well. Now I've just found a sneaky Hannah Karlzon book that was hiding amongst my Maria Trolle books, and this is Grains of Gold. This is the compilation book from her original series, Before the Tales from series. Now this page I used as a tester, and it was a complete fail. I will show you in a second. It was a complete fail. So I was testing a few different mediums and a few different techniques on this page, and it didn't work, but I'll just show you. So firstly, the background is Distress ink. It's two different blues and a purple. We've got Prismacolor pencil on here. We've got gold metallic paint. Now the mouse is where it all went wrong. So I was trying out a colour combination for fur on the mouse, and I think I was just using Prismacolors, but it didn't look good on this picture, so I thought I'll cover it up by using some alcohol markers. So I used the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers, and that looked even worse. So I covered it with some gesso and went over with Neocolor 2s, and it looked even worse. So then I went over that with some pencil, and that is the end result. So I think if I just done a soft grey mouse to begin with, it would look really nice. But I was trying out a new technique, hence why I've had to go through so many layers to try and salvage the page. I've also used washi tape on this page as well. So I was just testing it out to see if it would cut through the page, and it hasn't. You can see a little bit of bleed through here, but I have used, markers, paint, gesso, everything. I've chucked everything on this page. There's like 10 layers on here, so it's understandable that there was a little bit of a bleed through, but the washi tape I didn't cut through when I was using that, so we can try that out on a few more pages. And that's it in Grains of Gold. I've got a tag back here. What have I tagged? Oh, I must have tagged this page to colour. I'll pull that out of there. Okay, so that is Grains of Gold from Hannah Karlzon. I'm on to my final stack now, guys. We're flying through these with my neglected books. This is Millie Marotta's pocket edition of Animal Kingdom. I do have a couple of her other books, but I haven't coloured in those ones. This one, I coloured the B page here. And I've used Prismacolor pencils. The paint is KJ Designs by Karen. So Indigo Art GB, that's one of her gold paints. I think it's called Royal. We've got silver metallic pen, and we've got stickles. I quite like how that turned out. So that's Millie Marotta's Animal Kingdom. This one here is the Botanical Mandalas, and it's by Domenica Stopper, and Domenica kindly sent me a copy of this book for review. Now, where I started was the back here, and I coloured the border using the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers, and of course it bled through, which I knew it would, but I was just testing them out. So this page here was coloured with Prismacolor pencils, and I've just put a soft pastel background on there to try and cover up the bit of bleed through. Now, after I had the bleed through, I decided to match these colours here with pencil instead of colouring them through with the markers. So I've used Brut Funer rounds for the pencil to match to the markers from the back page, because I wanted all the borders to match throughout the book. So I've been colouring all the borders in with the Brut Funer round pencils, and my daughter and I are following the journaling prompts here and filling in our answers. So today I'm grateful for my favourite affirmations, and so on and so on. So we're filling this in together, and one day in the future she can have a look back and read her answers and read my answers. I mean, she's only 10, 11 next Monday on the 12th. But yeah, she can have a look back at her answers and mine and see how things have changed. And she can also, there's still more space here, so if she has kids, she can get one of her kids to fill in their answers down the bottom as well. So that is the Botanical Mandalas by Domenica Stopper. Next I have Mindful and Meditative Colouring by Gitanjali Behera, and this was sent to me by the artist herself. And I've coloured this page in here. There is a flip through up on my channel of this book and of the last book as well. This one was coloured with Prismacolors and black Posca, and the colour scheme I chose because these reminded me of Tuscan style tiles, so I coloured them with that in mind. That's all I've done in that book. Next is Lulu Mayo's A Million Dogs, and I've got one page coloured here. Now this one is a mix. I've used polychromos for all the pencil work except for the clouds and the dog fur, I guess. That's with Prismacolors. The clouds, I've also used the metallic blue paint. If you can see that shine. And the background is just pastels. I love how fun Lulu's books are to colour. Next, I've got A Million Cats by Lulu Mayo. I've got one page completed in here. Now, all the pencil work is Prismacolors. We've got Distress Ink cloud background and Distress Ink for the grass as well. We've got some metallic paints on here. These little ghosts down here have Winker Stella on them. And now the animals, so the cat and the pigs are all based with Tombow markers and then Prismacolors over the top. So a little bit of everything on this page. I love, they remind me a little bit of Rita Berman books, and you just play with colour. They're just really fun to colour. So that's A Million Cats by Lulu Mayo. Next is Language of Flowers. Now this book was sent to me by the publisher Hinkler, and it is only available in Australia and New Zealand. I think it is at QBD bookstores. So you can't find it anywhere other than Australia and New Zealand. But I have coloured one page. I think there's a flip through of this book up on my channel as well. And I coloured the carnation page here, and it's all with Prismacolor pencils. Next we have Fairy Tales by Emily Lederhall Oberg. I've got one coloured in this here. This one was another Forever Whip that I finished again this year, and I had coloured the book. I didn't like the colour I'd gone with, and I filed this page away, never to be seen again. But then I came back to it. I erased as much of the colour as I could, but I had to go over it using the same sort of pinks, different tones to what I originally used, but still with the sort of pinky purples, and then just made all the rest of the elements match that colour scheme as well. I think it turned out really good in the end, actually, so I'm glad I came back and finished it off. It's always nice to come back to a whip further down the track. You can get some fresh ideas. Now, if you are seeing any books that I have and some pages that you might want to see a colour along with that I haven't coloured, let me know down below. This is Nice Little Town. This is the first one. It's the only Nice Little Town I own. Now, I love all of her books and all of the images, but there's just a lot of these books, and I don't have enough time for the books that I do have, let alone to keep adding to the collection with books that I probably won't ever complete. Now, not the best paper in here, but I have used Prismacolors on this page, and I found them working quite well. Now this one was another long-term whip. I'd coloured the blue and green background, the sky and the grass here, and the brickwork. And that's all I'd coloured. So I've come back a few years down the track and finished it all off. So I quite like the end result. And that's all I've got in Nice Little Town. Next we have the Jasmine Beckett Griffith colouring book. Now I also have her Alice in Wonderland book, but I haven't touched that one. And this one only has one page coloured in it as well. And this is the Clockwork Dragonling, and it's coloured with Prismacolor pencils, and we just got a bit of stickles there on the key. This one, I remember when I was colouring it, the grass looked like a disaster. I was trying to add texture to the grass and was failing miserably. And then I went through and just did like a smooth blend over the top with the greens, and I really like the overall effect in the end. So sometimes you just got to trust the process. And I really like how this whole page turned out, actually. I love the copper that I've used, the metallic elements of the page. That's Jasmine Beckett Griffith colouring book. Next we have the lovely Teresa Goodrich's Country Christmas. I love all of her images. I do have another one of her books. Her pages are quite detailed, which of course we all know I like details, but there just isn't enough time to colour all of them, especially when I'm doing 2 full book colour alongs this year, Mythic World and Rooms of Wonder. So it doesn't leave that much time free for other things. But I coloured this one with Prismacolors, and then I've added some stickles for our lights as well, and some white Posca on the snow. That's all Prismacolors. Next we have Whipped. I've got one page in here. This one is coloured with luminance pencils. I've got metallic paint. We've got distress ink. I used a paint splatter stencil for the distress ink. There is a bit of pastel in the background and some stickles. I think that's it. Lots of different things thrown on this page. I love the luminance colour combos though. And that is Whipped. Next we have Doya Kirkosoy's Colour in Chic's Colouring Book 2, and this was gifted to me by the lovely Elizabeth. We have coloured one page in this book, and this is up on the channel as a colour along with Polychromos pencils. This is the Chic Fairy. Did you say chic or chic? Chic Fairy. Colour in Chics. Colour in Chicks? Colour in Chics. It's Polychromos and it's up on the channel as a colour along. So I quite like how she turned out, and I love her eyes and her glasses. I don't colour people very often. I much prefer colouring fairy animals to colouring people for some reason. Next we have A Dark Art by Francois Gautier, and this was sent to me by the publisher. And there is a flip through on my channel if you want to have a look at this one for a possible Halloween colouring book. This is Prismacolor pencils, but I was testing out some new metallic paints, so you can probably see that shine. These books are super detailed, and every page has a border around it. That looks like fun to colour for Halloween. Lots of details in it though. So that is Dark Art by Francois Gautier. Next up we have Spiral Scope's Amazing Animals. This one was also gifted to me, and this is really good fun actually. A good mindless activity. I've used my black Staedtler Triplus fine liner to colour them in, because it does recommend using black at the front of the book. So it was fun as I was colouring them in bit by bit to try and figure out and try and guess what animal was going to be popping up. And I've done a camel as well here. So these are really fun. Fun and easy to do. Alright guys, next is Kirby Rosanes. So this is the start of my Kirby journey. Geomorphia was the very first book I owned from Kirby. It was actually gifted to me by my husband and my kids for Christmas one year, and it was Christmas 2019. Now, the first page I ever coloured was this octopus, the Kraken. Now, I coloured this page December, January 2019, 2020, so over that Christmas period. That was at the time when we were having really bad bushfires here in Australia. And the colour scheme I used was based on what was happening at the time. So my parents were actually caught up in that bushfire, and when I say caught up, I mean it was right on their doorstep. We lost contact with them for I think about 4 days at that time, because the fires took out all the power and electricity and stuff. So they had no phone, no way of contact. Basically, I was following along on the news to see how close the bushfire had got, who was getting evacuated to the beach, etc. That was my only way of knowing what was happening with my parents. So we weren't allowed to get in there. The roads were all closed. They weren't allowed out at that time. They could have got out earlier, but my parents are very stubborn, and my dad, my 70-year-old dad, decided he'd rather stay and fight fires. So they decided to stay rather than get out. So we followed along on the news on what was happening. And while that was all happening, I decided to colour this page. So I uploaded this one up on Instagram at the beginning of January, and I got contacted by Kirby's publisher asking me to join the book tour for Worlds Within Worlds. So they were doing a blog tour for that one. It was me and 3 YouTubers. So at the time I didn't have my YouTube channel, I just had my Instagram, and I agreed to join the blog tour for Worlds Within Worlds, and that's where the channel all started. So this page was picked by my son for my first page to colour. my daughter, so this is all Prismacolor pencils. My daughter picked the hot air balloons, all Prismacolor pencils as well. And then I coloured the koi, the 2 koi page here. Now, I actually quite like this page, despite the fact that every colour under the sun has been thrown on this page. It is really colourful, but it works. I think it works. So, yeah, that was my 3rd ever coloured Kirby page. And then I coloured the dinosaur skull, and I really like how this one turned out. This is all Prismacolor pencils as well. So the skull, I think I used like the French greys and the putty beige to colour it in. Then I whited everything out with a Posca pen. And that's all I've coloured in Geomorphia. It's actually one of my favourite books. So while I was waiting for Worlds Within Worlds to arrive, I then went and bought Colourmorphia. So this is one of the compilation books, but it was the next book I bought after I was gifted Geomorphia by my family. And I've coloured this page here, the running of the hairs, I like to call it. And it's all polychromos except the background, which is Prismacolor pencils. And I quite like the colour scheme I used on this one. And my next page here, this one is all polychromos as well. And this one took a while. I remember watching Aquaman over and over on repeat while I was colouring this page. And I actually really enjoyed colouring it, and I love the final result as well. But yeah, it took a while to colour, as a lot of Kirby's pictures do. But yeah, it took me a long time to colour this one. And yeah, all polychromos. And that's all in Colourmorphia. I do have all of his compilation books, but this is the only one that I actually coloured in. That was because I didn't have the other Morphia books at that time. And the only Morphia books I haven't coloured anything in is Phantomorphia and Animorphia. So Animorphia is one of those ones where it's got a lot of pages where you add your own stuff. It's also full of his doodles. So I don't like colouring doodles, and I don't like adding my own details. So I haven't touched Animorphia. I will one day. We will get there one day. Maybe we'll do a colour along from it. Phantomorphia is one of my least favourite Kirby books as well, but there are 2 or 3 pages in there that I would like to colour. So we might do a colour along in that one day as well. I was thinking, just grab the next book. I was thinking next year Alien Worlds is going to be released. Now, I don't know whether I want to do Alien Worlds as a full book colour along. I will do colour alongs from it, but I don't know if I can focus on aliens for a full book. I'll have to wait and see what magic Kirby creates with the with aliens, because I can't picture it in my head. So I don't know if I'm going to want to colour it as an entire book. So what I have been thinking about is just going back through his older books and colouring more pages in them. So Mythomorphia, Fragile World. I get a lot of requests for pages from Fragile World. So colour more in Fragile World, Mythomorphia, and his other books, and just start filling them up a little bit, because mine have been a little bit neglected as well. So that is my thought process, maybe. Yeah. We'll see how we go. We'll see next year when we get Alien Worlds, what we feel like doing. So, Mythomorphia. I originally bought the US copy by accident. I never buy the US copies because the binding always comes undone for me. So, I bought this one by accident and I did a colour along. So up on the channel, you'll find the Goblin colour along. This is Prismacolor pencils. When I did it though, I did a conversion into polychromos. So if you have a look at this tutorial, you'll see this coloured in Prismacolors, but I will show you the matching polychromos pencils that you can use to create it with polychromos as well. So that's all I've coloured in this version of Mythomorphia. I do get requests every now and then to colour the other half of this page. I may do that, but I may do that in the UK version. So, my UK version, I've got this one here is the Fantastical Forest. There is a tutorial up on this page, up on the channel for this page as well. The pencil work is all Prismacolors, distress ink for the background. I've got stickles on toadstools and things, the water jug, and then on her fairy wings, and these are all fairy wings, I've got the pearl drops. Okay. This one here is the jackalope. No tutorial up on the page on this one. I love the colours I used though. I think the colours look really good together. It's completely all pencil, including the background. No gel pen on this page. That's a first. Okay, and next we have the Hydra. Now the Hydra is a tutorial up on the channel. This is coloured with Prismacolors. The background is black acrylic paint, and I think the waves is white acrylic paint. Yeah, this one is from beginning of 2021, and that's the Hydra. So that is my Mythomorphia. So very much neglected, especially considering it's one of my favourite books from Kirby. And next we have Imagimorphia. I've got one coloured here. Okay, this little city here, I've used a limited palette. We've got pastel for the background to match the buildings. The little doodles on the page, I've blended them in using some of the colours from the page. So I've used some with the blue to match the water. I've also coloured some with the golden colours as well. So trying to blend them in a bit. But I like that page. I like how it turned out with a limited palette and purple buildings. All right, guys, next is my Worlds Within Worlds. So I've got 2 copies here. I'll explain that why soon. Okay, so my Worlds Within Worlds. Every single page from this book is up on the channel as a colour along. We completed the entire book as colour alongs. And you can also find a final video. There's a couple actually. There's one which is just a quick flip through showing you the pages with music in the background. There's another one of me talking through the pages and how I chose the colours, etc. So there are a few videos up there and of the completed book, and there is obviously a video for every page. So this is the book I was invited to join the blog tour for. And if I just flip to, I'll go straight to my little orange sneakers here. So this is my very first colour along. So when I was asked to join the blog tour, I decided to colour this orange sneaker, and I don't know which side I coloured first. So I coloured one half of it and I popped it up on Instagram for the blog tour. Once I popped that up, I was getting a lot of requests for tutorials and how I coloured the page, how I got the colours so vibrant, so bright. So I decided to do a tutorial on YouTube on the other side of the page, whichever one that is. So it is my first colour along. There is 4 parts, I think, to it. When I first filmed it, I didn't know what I was doing. I actually spoke throughout the entire video originally, and then it was so long, I ended up muting myself and speeding it up and cutting bits and pieces out to get the video up. So it's not that great a quality of a colour along, but it is my very first tutorial, and I still really do love this orange boot. So I can see the progression in my colouring though, from the very first page I coloured to 2 years later, my very last page coloured in this book. So let's go back to the very end again, to our answer page here. So this entire book is coloured with Prismacolor pencils. We do use a couple of different other mixed media as we're going along. So distress ink, there might be some, well, there's definitely Posca, there might be some pastels, but I'll explain it as we go through. I'll just flip through quickly because there are already videos up there. I will try and tag them up or down below. You don't need me to flip through it all again, do you? I mean, I like flipping through it all again, but this is Distress ink and Prismacolors, all Prismacolors. So the orange boot story I've given you. This one here is the reason for my second book. So I filmed this whole thing, but one morning I was lying in bed flipping through and checking my YouTube and accidentally deleted part 1 of this video. I don't know what I was doing. I was half asleep. So note to self, don't flick through YouTube when you're half asleep. And I contacted YouTube to try and see if they could retrieve the lost footage for me, and they weren't able to. While I was trying to contact YouTube, actually, I made myself a cup of tea and I spilled it all over my book and my laptop. So it was a really good morning that day. So I had to buy a second Worlds Within Worlds and recolor the part 1. So technically this is a whip, but it's never going to be finished because I only coloured this to recreate part 1 of the video. Otherwise you would have only had part 2 up on the channel. So this is my recreation of my part 1. This page will never be completed. I may give this book away at some point and someone else can maybe finish it off if they like, because I don't need two copies. I've coloured every single page. I don't need to recolour them. Yeah, so all Prismacolors. That was all Prismacolor. And again, I like that page. I like most of them actually, but I really like that one. Black Posca background. I'll just flip quickly. Flip quickly, Karen. We don't need to keep going. Here we go. Distress ink. So this took 2 years to complete, this entire book. Mostly with pencils. I really love these 2 pages together. That's all Prismacolor pencils. I love using pencils. We've got a bokeh effect background there. Oh, pirate bees. The dollhouse. Okay, so when I first got Worlds Within Worlds and I did the orange sneaker for the blog tour, in the meantime I came back and I coloured this page. So before I did my first tutorial, I started colouring this page. It's Prismacolors. Originally the background was a bokeh effect background. I'd used sort of these greens and the pinks and the yellows to create the background, but it was so busy and I didn't like it. And I think I just didn't know what to do with the background because Kirby's just given us this floating dollhouse and it just wasn't sitting on anything. There was nothing to ground the picture to the page. But I didn't like the background that I created, so I went over it with purple Posca for some reason. I mean, black probably would have looked better, but for some reason I thought purple and pink would go together. It didn't, Karen, it didn't. But yeah, I thought that might look okay. So I coloured that one by myself, not as a colour along. So once we finished the entire book, and I had my second copy here, so since I already had the second copy, I thought I'd go through and recreate it as a colour along for the channel. And I do much prefer my newer version. So they're actually completely different. One's bright and colourful and another one is more muted, natural looking colours. So 2 completely different looking pictures. But I'm glad I recreated it. So after I coloured this dollhouse page, I was getting requests for more colour alongs, more tutorials after doing the orange sneaker. So I thought at the time I'd do one page for YouTube and then one page just for myself and so on and so on. But then somehow we decided to do the entire book as a colour along. So that's why I recreated that page. And I'll keep flipping. Oops. I did say I wasn't going to flip through this entire book, didn't I? I love these 2 pages. I can't help myself. These 2 here, I was using Distress ink and I used exactly the same method and technique. Well, not technique. I used the same method for both pictures, but this one I did first and didn't know what I was doing. This one I had a better handle on the distress inks the second time, so I quite like this one. A little bit heavy-handed here, but they're actually the same colours used for both backgrounds. I love these two. My bubbles. This one here, I was so sick of colouring green by the end of it, and I didn't have much green pencils left actually by the time I finished that one. I think I went through, off the top of my head, this book took maybe 2 to 3 sets of Prismacolor pencils, 150 set. Went through a lot of pencils. I mean, the entire background is all pencil on most of these pages. A lot of you might have seen my library page here. It's actually one of my most popular videos from this book. And I love the colours I use. Like I said before, I love colour in water, and the nice bright books just offset it. And then this page I coloured to try and match the colour scheme a bit. My octopus, my kraken here, this one was actually a buddy colour with Shell from Shell Arty. If you go have a look at her channel, she's done, her octopus is actually quite similar colours to mine, and we didn't even show each other until we finished the page, and we actually used very similar colours, which is quite funny. She's another huge Kirby fan too. This one here took me forever to colour, and it took me even longer to edit. So all these tiny little details, it took so long to colour them, but when I was editing, the editing process, the thing that takes the longest is when I add in the pencil number and pencil name, because I've got to change that every time I pick up a different pencil. And it was basically every 10 to 15 seconds I was picking up a different pencil colour for this page. So it took hours and hours to edit the video, but my phone ran out of storage while I was editing the video, so I had to then cut the footage up, and I think I ended up with 3 different parts to the video instead of 2. So I had to cut one video into 2, so it meant I had to re-edit the video for a second time and then for a third time. So it ended up taking me 3 times as long to edit the video than it did to actually colour the video. But I really like the end result, so it was worth it. This one's a very limited palette, just a little pop of colour with the red. My red dragon, I love my red dragon. I love colouring dragons altogether, but I love colouring red dragons. There's just something about a red dragon. This one here is probably my most favourite page in the book. This little galaxy page here, and of course there's a tutorial on how to colour this one up on the page, up on the channel, as there is with every page. This page here though, keep your eye open because you might be seeing it in a book very soon, in a different book. Hint hint. I love the creepy tortoise page here as well. I love the colours I used, especially that sort of like reddish brown on the house as well. The windows I think look really good too. And the background, I like how I made it darker near the house and then we took it out lighter. Dinosaur. I love this page. This is one of my last pages I coloured in the book, and I used a wave stencil for the waves. It's beautiful and bright and colourful. And we've got a contrasting page here, so from bright and bold and colourful to dark and mysterious here, and I've got some stormy grey clouds with the distress ink as well. So I think that was the last page, I coloured in this book. And that is my Worlds Within Worlds that I said I wasn't going to do a full flip through of. Next we have A Fragile World, and all of these pages are here as colour alongs. I must have tagged something to colour there. We've got our Galapagos penguins. Now, I know Galapagos Islands, it's more of a warmer tropical feel, but I wanted these nice core colours, and I really like how it turned out. I especially like the underwater part here. And this is up on the channel as a tutorial with all Prismacolor pencils. My Philippines fruit bat here is also a tutorial. I really like the colours we use for him as well. And I think technically he eats red berries, but red berries did not match my colour scheme. So purple and green berries are what we got. My pandas, I like this page too, another tutorial up on the channel with Prismacolors. The background as well is Prismacolors, and I quite like that sunset or sunrise colours. The mandrill, I really love this mandrill. He's actually the cover image for my Facebook group as well. I think he turned out really well, and I really like his eyes. I think they look really realistic. And one more here. We've got our, are they the lemur frogs, I think they're called? And I like the colour tones we've used in this very muted, monotone, limited palette here with the sort of oranges, and we've brought some of those golden colours through on the leaves as well, and on to our little frogs. But I think it looks really good, and we've got a black Posca background as well. And that's all we've done from Fragile World so far. And what have I got marked here to colour? Let's have a look. Oh, this little mouse. And oh, I just got two stuck to the one picture. Yeah. Okay. Next we have a Mythic World, which is the current full book colour along we're doing, and I'm 25% of the way through, so we're a quarter of the way there. And I haven't marked these pages, so I'll just flick through. This is our Warble Dragon, lots of blues used on this page, nice cool colour combinations. And yeah, like I said, these are all up on the channel as colour alongs. We've got our Bedouin. I like the colour scheme. I was originally going to go with reds and golds, but there's so many pages in this book I can use red and gold on that I decided to change it up a little bit. We've got some Winker Stella on the snakes, if you can see that, and just some white gel pen on the centre of each of the flowers as well. Some gold metallic paint around our turtle shell and on our snake. This one is the Iara, and I love the colours we used with her as well. So it is technically a limited palette, lots of oranges, blues, greens and yellows, but I think it's very effective. I love the colour change from her tail, from the oranges to the blues to the greens, and I love her hair as well. She's one of my favourite pages in this book so far. This one here, page 78, what is she called again? Jorogumo. Okay, so she is all Prismacolors. She's got a bit of gold metallic paint, especially on her sharp little nails at the end of her legs. There's some silver paint pen and on the cobwebs as well. We've got our wolf. We've got our werewolf and our vampire, and this is all Prismacolors. We used Neocolor 2 for the background and white acrylic paint for our little foggy mist. The Sharoof, this one took forever. This was a very limited palette. I was a little bit over these colours by the time I finished it. But I like the effect. I like his sort of lava skin. Okay, we have the Trolls and the Phoenix. Now the Phoenix page you might not have seen yet because this is our most recent colour along. I'm not sure if it's going to be up on the channel before this video or vice versa. But this is all Prismacolors, and we've just got a bit of metallic gold pen on these little loose bits flying around there. So it is the Phoenix, but it's not the Phoenix Rising. So this is before his rebirth. So I didn't want to do fire colours, but I did decide to do golden colours for the colour scheme. And we've got our Troll page here, which is also Prismacolors. And I love the water. Okay, this one is the Aska Frower. Originally, if you watch the video, I was going to colour her quite colourful, lots of spring colours with different pinks and yellows and greens for the foliage. And then as I started colouring it, I just wanted it really like dark and mysterious instead. So I went with quite a monotone limited palette, lots of just greens and browns, but I think it works and I really like it. It's another one of my favourites from this book too. We have Baba Yaga here, all Prismacolor pencils, including the background. Bit of white gel pen here to make her outfit fade away a bit. And then we've got our Kraken, which is Castle Art pencils, distress ink for the background, and a bit of a green metallic paint on his spikes. And we've got some acrylic paint across the water. And this is the Kappa. This is my most favourite page in this book. Beautiful and bright and colourful. I think he's actually quite cute, not creepy at all. This is all Prismacolors, but I have used a metallic pink Posca up on the cherry blossoms, if that's showing up on the camera. Now that did bleed through a little bit, but I managed to cover over it with the distress ink, so you can't even tell that it bled through. I've never had a problem with Posca bleeding through in Kirby's book, so I think maybe something to do with it being metallic. I'm not quite sure, but I have coloured in this book with Posca since then and had no problem, so. This is Typhon. I quite like the colour scheme for this one. All Prismacolors and just a white acrylic paint sponged on the background there for some smoke. We've got our white stag here, which is again is Prismacolor pencils, and we've got Wink of Stella on his antlers. And another cloud background that I've drawn in there. I quite like the colour scheme we've used in this one too. I think that's it. Yep, that's it so far for Mythic World. So we're a quarter of the way there. Okay, and that was all my Kirby books. Like I said, I've got Anamorphia and Phantomorphia that I haven't coloured in, and a couple of the compilation books as well. Next, we've got Circle of Life by Melpomene Chatsapanagottu. And I think all these are colour-alongs. So we've got my little birds here. This one is definitely a colour-along, and I think it's probably, is it my most favourite in this book? Or is the tortoise my most favourite? I quite like the page. I like, there's not that much colour introduced on the page. It's all greens, reds and oranges. But I think it's very effective, and I've got a nice light distress ink background so it doesn't take away from the main focus of the page. So that's a colour along on the channel. My acorn, he is also a colour along on the channel. Prismacolor pencils, in the background is distress ink. I like the autumn colours we used in this palette. Okay, and another colour along up on the channel. Beautiful, bright and colourful. Lots of colours on this page. And this one is one of my other favourites. It's the tortoise page, a limited palette here. I really like the background. It's sort of grey and rainy looking background, especially with these sort of white drips coming in sideways. And I like the blues and purples of the flowers, which we brought down here into the tortoise's shell as well. So that is my Circle of Life. That is my favourite of Mel Permenti's books. And that one was sent to me by the publisher as well for that one. Nature Mandalas. So this is Mel Permenti Chattopadgayo's newest book. And was this one sent to me by the publisher? I think it was too. Can't remember now. And this is the only page I've coloured. It's also a tutorial up on the channel, and it is Prismacolors with Neo Colour 2 background. Yeah. And that is the last book. So if there's anything you've seen today, any of the books that you'd like me to do more colour alongs in, please let me know down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all again very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.